Hello. This was another hard one, so I decided to take a video of it. Not hard, but just tricky. 2015 Chevy Colorado 3.6 liter V6, I think. I'm doing a thermostat housing. Comes out like this. This sits on the back of the engine, and it's got coolant pipe on top, some heater hoses on the bottom. It's got 3 bolts that keep it in place. 1, 2, 3. Alright, so the way I started this thing was I took off the air filter housing from this side on both pieces, so the top and the bottom. Gave me a little bit more room. The first piece that you take off so that's the air filter housing. It's got a couple of screws on it, and then it's got a lip on this side. And you take the screws off, and you take that clamp off. You take off the mass airflow sensor. Pop this off, take it off. Underneath is the air filter housing. It's got 2 bolts on it. I'll show it to you in a second. You take that off. And then this piece has 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts that need to be taken off. I think they were Torx with like a flathead screwdriver or something on them. You need to squeeze this vacuum line off. And once you take all that off, you kind of move it up a little bit, and then you need to get to this little 8mm that sits on the throttle body. So you pop this up and out, and then underneath you'll see the intake. The intake has this little cover on it. It sits on top. It's got these 2 little yellow tabs to keep it in place, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bolts that hold it in place. When you take those bolts off, you gotta also take this off. It's got this little squeeze tab on the side, so you just kind of pull this out of the way. Got a little tab right there, you pull it out of the way and it pops up. You gotta fish this out of it. It's like underneath stuff, so be careful, don't break this thing. Another vacuum line. This one we just pulled off. It's got a sensor on it. Unclip the sensor. The sensor sat with this little plastic clip. This thing has a bunch of these little plastic clips everywhere. One here, one on the side. So you gotta be very careful when you start moving this around. Check all around, make sure you're taking all these little wire clips off of them. And on the back, it's got 2 bolts that keep this cover in place. This little backing plate and that little shield go around the fuel pump, not fuel pump, the fuel lines. And then it's got another screw on this side. So you take those 3 screws off, this moves, you pull this out of the way, and inside there's a little transmission overflow, little hose, little breather valve, whatever it is, connects on this side. So you gotta pop these little plastic nibbles off, and you could push this out, and then you pull this off, and it gets to this place. I always put stuff, I always put rags in my intake. I don't want anything going in the engine. This is a little push tab on top of the intake. You have to take it off. This is another one. It's got that little sensor on top of it. You squeeze these from both sides and it comes off, and it had a little harness on it. It's part of EVAP sensor. So now you get to this point, that black little plate sits back here. So you got to get it out of the way to move this up around. Underneath here, we have the fuel line that connects to this. This takes a little special clip. It's got a little plastic tool that pops in here. Push these little nipples out of the way, and then it comes off. And then it had a 15mm bolt that sat right here. It's pretty hard. So you take this off, get it out of the way. Both of these wire harnesses have that little safety clip stuff on them. Show you one of them. So push this little red tab out of the way, clip this off. So we got the electric sensors off, a few lines out of the way. And then we've got the pipes that attach to the thermostat housing. So the thermostat housing has a radiator pipe that goes under the alternator. That pipe goes around and comes up and attaches to the thermostat housing on the back side of it. Go under the car. Well, this thing was high enough where I didn't need to lift it, but if you do need to lift yours, jack stands, always, better safe than sorry. And then obviously a little catch can to make sure you catch all the antifreeze. We don't want any dogs or anything drinking it. It's bad for their health. So go under the car. That pipe has a little chrome right there. It's got a little 13mm bolt that needs to come off. There's a 15mm bolt that goes on here. So you take those two off, and then this pipe. It's not held by anything else other than a screw that's holding it to the thermostat housing. Now, you can take your tire off